Have you ever asked yourself why chicken meat is light in color while beef and lamb are dark and red? Why, for instance, don't we find buffalo with white meat or chickens with red meat, even though ducks and geese have dark meat and are, after all, birds, just like chickens? Is it, for example, related to what the chickens eat? Or is it a pigment in their bodies? Or what's the story? Welcome to the Midnight Questions channel. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. One of the most common misconceptions people have about meat is that red meat is red because it's full of blood, and that chicken is light in color because it contains less blood. But of course, I don't need to tell you that this is completely wrong. After slaughter, the body drains most of the blood from it. The blood is completely removed from the blood vessels and muscle tissue, leaving other than lean muscle tissue. Even the light red liquid we might see on meat plates as we cut it isn't blood in the literal sense. It's a mixture of water, proteins, and natural substances found in the muscle tissue itself. So what's the connection? To understand the answer, we must first look at a very important protein in the body: hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein that circulates in the blood itself. Its primary function is to take oxygen from the lungs, transport it, and distribute it to all the body's organs. But the problem is that oxygen delivery via the blood is gradual, not instantaneous. This means that at certain moments, muscles may need a higher and faster supply of oxygen than the blood can deliver at a normal rate. And this is where the hero of our story today comes in: the protein myoglobin. Myoglobin is a protein found inside muscle cells. Its main function is to act as a storage reservoir or emergency battery for oxygen. Simply put, it captures oxygen and stores it within the muscle until it is needed, making it ready for immediate use whenever the muscle demands it. This ensures there is a ready supply of oxygen inside the muscle itself, so it can use it immediately when needed without waiting for a new supply of blood, which arrives gradually. So, what does all this have to do with the color of the meat? The connection is that myoglobin contains iron atoms, and when iron binds with oxygen, it produces the deep red color we see in the meat. This means that the more the muscle needed oxygen continuously, the more myoglobin it contained, and the redder and darker its color became. Animals whose meat is red, such as cows and cattle and sheep, their muscles are constantly active because these animals spend almost their entire day standing on their legs, walking long distances, and exerting significant muscular effort, even if the effort itself is at a steady, slow pace. Consequently, their muscles constantly need this oxygen supply, which is why they have large amounts of myoglobin, which makes their meat red and darker. In contrast, other animals like chickens have very little myoglobin because chickens do not exert significant muscular effort. Consequently, they do not need to store oxygen, so their meat remains light in color. In addition to the myoglobin content in the muscles, there is another important factor that contributes to determining color, which is the type of muscle itself. The muscles in animals' bodies are generally not of a single type, but are divided into two main types of muscle fibers. The first type is slow-twitch fibers, also known as sustained activity fibers, are designed for activities that take a long time, such as walking, standing, or long-distance running. These fibers rely on aerobic respiration, meaning they need oxygen all the time to burn energy and produce movement. That's why they're packed with mitochondria, which, as we know, are the energy factories inside cells, in addition to the factors we've discussed. The result is that this type of fiber is dark red. As for the other type of muscle, the fast-twitch fibers, also known as emergency fibers, these muscles are designed for quick, temporary movements, meaning sudden, powerful movements that end quickly, like when an animal suddenly jumps or flees from danger. Because of this, the body doesn't have time to wait for oxygen to arrive in large quantities, so the muscle turns to another energy source called glycogen, which burns quickly on its own without waiting for oxygen. This gives the muscle high speed and strength, but for a short period, after which they tire again. That's why muscles of this type have fewer mitochondria and less myoglobin. so they're white or light in color. If we apply this to animals, we'll find that animals like cows, buffalo, sheep, and others have mostly the first type of muscle, so their meat is red. As for birds like chickens, their bodies are divided into the breast and the wings. These are temporary muscles used only in emergencies. For example, when a chick flaps its wings to jump over a fence rather than over the roof and into the neighbor's yard, we find that the chest muscles, or flight muscles in general, don't require much oxygen or sustained effort, so they're pure white, whereas the back muscles of the are made of fibers suited for sustained endurance because they walk on them all day, though to a lesser extent than cattle and sheep. That's why we see that a chicken's back is darker than its breast. In other words, the muscles that move a lot stay red, while the inactive muscles stay white. By the way, not all birds have white meat. Their meat is red and so dark that it's almost the same color as beef. The most famous example of this is the ostrich. If someone has never seen raw ostrich meat before, they wouldn't be able to tell it apart from beef, even though the ostrich is a bird. The whole idea is that the ostrich has very strong leg muscles and uses them to run long distances at high speeds, since they are among the fastest land animals in the world. That's why their meat is red and dark. The same applies to wild birds and migratory birds like pigeons and ducks. Their meat is darker than that of chickens because their lifestyle is different and they move around a lot. So, in the end, does it depend on the type of creature, whether it's a bird or not, but rather on how the muscles themselves function and how much oxygen they require. Additionally, the level of activity and muscle type play a crucial role in another very important factor. Meanwhile, veal or young beef is dark red because young calves move very little and haven't yet exhausted its muscles intensely and continuously. Consequently, its myoglobin reserves are still low. This is also, by the way, what makes the taste of veal different from that of beef, because the myoglobin content changes the meat's flavor. As the calf grows and begins to walk more and move in wider spaces, its muscles start to develop biologically, and the amount of myoglobin in them increases to keep up with its new weight and the required exertion. Its color begins to shift from light pink to dark red, and its flavor remains strong and concentrated because it contains more myoglobin. In addition to these factors, the activity or lifestyle itself also makes a difference. A cow raised in an open pasture and walks several kilometers every day will have meat that is darker and has a stronger flavor than a cow of the exact same breed and age that is confined to a farm and eats feed while standing in one place. The muscular effort of walking and moving stimulates the body to produce more myoglobin and create more blood vessels in the muscles. And of course, when we talk about meat colors, we can't forget about fish. And fish might be the most confusing part of the equation because most fish have white meat, yet they swim and move constantly and never stay still, like little devils in the water. So how is it that fish move constantly like that, yet their meat is so bright white? The idea here is that not all movement is created equal, and not all movements require the same level of muscular effort. What does that mean? Well, yes, fish do move all the time, but despite that, they don't exert a high level of muscular effort. Fish live in water, and the water constantly supports their entire body, so they don't get tired from lifting their own weight. For example, like land animals that have to carry their body weight all the time. They also don't need to tense their muscles strongly to stay still. If we observe fish, we'll find that most of their movement is fluid. The tail moves, the fins move, simple movements to adjust direction, and that's it. That's why most of a fish's muscles are fast twitch muscles for short, sudden movements, and consequently, they don't contain myoglobin, which is what makes the meat bright white. But this isn't true for all fish. Other species lead completely different lifestyles, like tuna, for example, which are considered ocean sprinters. They swim at high speeds and over long distances almost constantly, and sometimes migrate thousands of kilometers. If we look at their meat, praise be to God, we'll find it's red. This is because the muscles constantly need oxygen and energy, so they're full of myoglobin, which is what gives its meat that deep red color. Even though it's a fish like the rest, But anyway, that's it. Who made it this far? Everyone who made it here is the best. Give us a like before you leave, so we know how many of you made it to the end. And don't forget, if you have a question that pops into your head in the middle of the night and confuses you, write it in the comments below the video so we can answer it.